Wow, Elena, look at you. Where'd you get that dress?
Oh, I don't know. I just bought it. But I think I'm gonna go change, cause...
No, don't. You look beautiful. You look like a doily.
I'm gonna change.
No, don't change. And don't go thinking for yourself either, Laney. Hey, what is your glitch, huh? My glitch?
You know what? We're already late.
No,
Wait.
Hang on a second. Look, do you have like a problem with me or something? Because if you do, let's just get this out, all right? Seriously, is there have I stepped over some line in the sands of coolness with you? Because excuse me if somebody doesn't know the secret handshake with you. There's no secret handshake. There's an IQ prerequisite, but there's no secret handshake.
And that was a clip from Reality Bites, 1994 film, which is apropos this week because we're focusing today on movies set in or filmed in Houston and Texas in general.
Texas.
This is Jordan, the podcast. I've taken over, but no, I'm just for this week. This is Movies, the podcast, and I am moderating today. This is Jordan.
Hi, this is Curtis.
This is Rob.
This is Brenda.
And our producer extraordinaire,
Stan.
Oh,
Stan.
gotta love that man.
I like Stan.
Stan's great.
Yeah.
Whatever happened to Dan?
He replaced him.
Oh.
That's his twin.
Should I get like an evil mustache?
Yes, for an audio podcast. You're just...
But not on your face.
Should I get an audio mustache?
So, before we get into our topic this week, what has everyone been up to?
Well, what have we done? Well, what have I done?
More importantly.
I like how you always look at Curtis. Like, the rest
We
of us
hang
just
out
feel
all
left
the
out.
time.
Because, like, what have we done? Screw these other ones.
Rob and I live 2 blocks from each other.
Wait, y'all
so-
hang out after this?
No, we don't know each other. I actually saw, Rob didn't see this, but Brenda did. I saw the Evil Dead remake.
Oh, wow.
Recently. And I was really, I will never see that movie again. I didn't like it, but I thought it was really effective.
Did you watch the original?
I love the original.
I love the original trilogy, and for me, this didn't bring anything new. I was kind of disappointed.
See, I think that's funny is that I asked you, and I was because Dane loves horror movies, so I asked you, and you didn't think it was very good. So, but he thought it was interesting enough to watch, and then I've had other people tell me that it's scary.
It is. Like you said, it is effective. I don't know. For me, it's just I had higher hopes because the original producers were behind this as well. To me, it just like halfway during the film, I'm like, I don't like this. It's kind of doing the whole cliche of like kids out in the woods doing stupid things that kind of brought them.
But Evil Dead's did that too. But Evil Dead, the thing, I will not say it's better than the original because it's not, but it is very effective. And from the time the girl gets raped by the tree, which is in the original, until the end of the movie.
Spoiler, Curtis.
I know, sorry. Till the end of the movie, when it started raining, I thought this is an effective, like, I'm nervous, I'm scared, like, this is gory, I'm uncomfortable. Where most movies would, like, stop, that movie just kept going and cutting off more limbs and putting nails through people's faces. And I just thought, I've not seen a movie that violent in probably 10 years. So that's where I thought, okay, I'll give it props for going that far. But, yeah, the dialogue was terrible, and it wasn't that original, but it was rough. That's what I liked about it, though.
I could see that point, but I hate to use the word gratuitous, but
it was gratuitous.
Well, all those things, it just seems like, okay, yeah, that's great, but if the story isn't good, then sometimes the rest of that stuff kind of doesn't matter.
It's a remake of a movies from the 80s that's just a gore fest. So
yeah, I don't think Evil
Dead's... How much
Dead's,
original content do you want out
Evil
of it?
Dead's really not that prolific. I mean, I love it. I think it's one of the great horror movies, but it's not that original or new, or at the time I think it was a low, teeny low budget, but people put it on a pedestal, and I think that it's not that great. I love it, but I like the remake. I'll never watch it again. But
well, I think you when you make a remake, you're kind of exposing yourself to that. People, especially with something like this that like so many people have in such a high regard. I think, if you bring something new to it, or I don't know, you're interpretation of it, I get that, but to me, it just kind of seemed like a rehash of bad '80s slasher flicks.
Really? I honestly cannot think of a movie that has been that violent. I mean, it was so violent. And most of the violence was self-mutilation. So it was like...
Well, I can't wait to see it.
I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying it's an effective...
I'm going to take my kids.
You bought kids?
Just to take them to the movies. I get in for free.
So that's what I watched. That's what I've seen.
Well, speaking of valet parking for your brain, because this is kind of the time of year for those kinds of movies, I saw Oblivion, the new Tom Cruise. And say what you will about Tom Cruise and his personal life, I really enjoy his movies. Those popcorn blockbusters. He's 50. I cannot believe he's 50 years old. He looks amazing. He walks around with no shirt on a couple of times, flies around in a spaceship, shoots at things. Morgan Freeman shows up. There's a hot Russian chick, a hot British chick. There's, and it's a really entertaining story. Melissa Leo is in it.
What?
Randomly.
She's like in one of the bosses?
She's the mission control.
Gotcha.
And she's super creepy, which she always she kind of has this thing now where she's swooping into movies and just plays this really Southern woman who just
Like
is
in Flight?
In Flight. And she's like really nice and she's real genteel, and you're like, this woman is like eating babies
she was like
in
that
her
in Red
garage.
State.
She's like the closer.
She's
like, I'm going to come in and do my thing. And
close it.
It's because now she gets the big money to do the little roles after winning that Oscar.
Hey, you know what? Do it.
Yeah, make your money, honey.
We are not gonna. She's not gonna get overexposed like some people we could mention.
Nicole Kidman?
That's not nice.
But no, I enjoyed it, and I know a lot of people have seen it and said, "Oh, it's predictable." I didn't think it was that predictable. That the twists were.
But did you have fun with it, though? I mean,
I loved it, and it's a beautiful film. I mean, yes, there are about 400 movies that have come out in the last few years about the destruction of the Earth by, like WALL-E, or, and
Sex in the City 2?
The Help.
That was
They're about the destruction of the world by aliens or virus. And
and After Earth is coming out soon.
I mean, it's a trope that's been beaten to death.
Who directed Oblivion? It was somebody good.
The director of Tron Legacy. This is his second feature.
That's not.
That's
don't
not a
let that tell you.
I love Tron Legacy.
The first hour of Tron Legacy is good.
It's an hour and a half Daft Punk music video.
And I'm okay with that.
Same here.
I'm not saying
Have
that's
you
a
seen-
bad thing.
We need to watch Electroma.
Oh, how I hate that movie. It's so boring.
It was directed by Joseph Kosinski.
Oh.
Well, while
Love his work.
While you two were watching, or you three were watching your mainstream horror, mainstream movies, I watched a little film called Disconnect.
Oh.
It was this year's Crash,
but way better than
but
Crash.
way better than
Way
Crash.
ever
You know,
could be.
I feel bad enough about being white. I don't need to see another Crash.
No, what'll make you feel bad is about your devices. It'll make you feel bad that we don't run away with that laptop.
No, don't take my MacBook away.
No, it was you tell them, but it was.
I didn't hear what you said. I was on Grindr. I'm sorry.
And that's exactly the point of the movie.
Just like
as
Stan
over
taps
there.
away. I'm sorry, Stan taps away. The IRS is looking for Dan, so our producer is named Stan.
Do we know his last name?
I don't know it, and I don't want to know it.
I don't think anyone should know.
We don't want to know what databases that name would show up in.
Oh, I highly recommend Disconnect. It surprised me. I'd seen the trailer, and Curtis. It was between that or Upstream Color, and
Is this the Jason Bateman?
Yes.
Yes, Paula Patton. Not
Alexander-
Paula Poundstone. Wrong one.
I really got excited there for a second.
Alexander Skarsgård was in it.
Hope Davis, and that
Rachel-
chick from Oblivion. You said.
Yeah, Andrea Riseborough.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The Russian chick.
For real.
Is she the Russian or the British?
The
one?
British.
British.
Okay.
Jessica Chastain in that part. Anyways,
She's beautiful.
But I can't recommend this movie enough. It's several different stories that are intertwined, and it all revolves around how much technology has taken over our lives, and how much it's separated us from our loved ones, from just interacting with other people. And none of the storylines in the film seem you didn't lose interest in any of them. Not, you know how sometimes you're watching films that have multiple storylines, one is more interesting than the other. No, I was engaged by every single one of those. I'm disappointed in myself that it took me 2 weeks to watch this movie, and
you work in a theater.
Yeah.
I didn't even see the trailer. I just, out of the corner of my eye, saw the trailer once, and I was like, oh, there's a person without their shirt on, a young man. And I said, I should watch that trailer.
That young man was...
a very good
He
actor.
looks this side of legal.
That young man was Paula Poundstone.
That's a plot point.
At this point, I'd like to give a shout out to those listening in Iowa.
That's where I'm from. No, Rob's right. No, it is a really good movie. I was very surprised. We went with our friends, and it's hard to find a movie that every single one of us liked, and every single one of us was like, "That was an amazing movie," because it was just about how we hide behind our electronics,
and it didn't feel fake.
Yes.
Like, that's the thing about Crash. I love Crash, but it's very, very melodramatic, but this one didn't feel fake. The storylines, the dialogue, it worked for what the characters needed to do. And we were looking it up. It's from the director. It's his first feature film from the director of Murderball, the documentary about the guys, the paraplegics, and I guess that's what it's called, Murderball, the sport.
Yeah.
I can't recommend that movie enough.
Yeah, it wasn't like holding its tent poles up saying like, this is our issue, this is our issue. It just had good stories that the issue kind of crept its way in.
And it was very subtle in the way it connected, how from father to son to daughter to neighbor, everybody, how we're all connected in one way, and how it disconnects us.
The like pros and cons of like our new technological world. Yeah, like the trailer caught my attention. I just haven't been out to catch it yet.
And if for
See it before Friday.
Yeah, it ends tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or it ended several weeks ago.
Smooth.
Or if you're out in Iowa, it probably didn't come to you at all.
Download it on iTunes.
Drive to Chicago. It's a lovely city.
Speaking of Chicago, I was there not too long ago, and I walked by the Scientology church, and Dane's like, "There it is." Oh, okay.
Rob,
on.
who's Dane?
Oh, that's my boyfriend who doesn't listen to the podcast.
He doesn't listen to the podcast.
He has not listened to it yet.
Is he listening right now?
He wanted to show up and heckle us while we recorded.
You're gay.
Actually,
going back to more, I guess, mainstream
God,
releases.
yes, thank you, Brenda.
thank you, Brenda, for keeping us on task.
Back on track.
The perils of being a hag on this.
That's Dan. Dan's the hag.
But Dan is gone. Stan is here.
Oh, Stan.
Anywho,
My Iowan friends would take offense to this.
I would take
The whole state is putting a referendum on us.
Good.
We're being blocked on YouTube.
if they would actually listen to it. Yeah, I ended up watching. I didn't think I'd ever recommend a Michael Bay film, but I recently watched Pain and Gain this weekend, and I loved it.
I'm dying to see that. I really want to see that.
I'm a huge lover of true crime. I kind of find it, it's got its, jacked up side, but I do find it kind of fascinating or interesting, what makes people kind of tick or, just flip a switch and, want to hurt or harm somebody else. And it was done in a way, it could have easily been a drama, and it did have the Michael Bay style to it, but it was hilarious. It's weird to say that about a true crime, and this actually happened to somebody, but it was hilarious. And
It was a passion project for Michael Bay for so long, and he committed to Transformers 4 if they would let him do this movie. He said, "All right, I'll do your blockbuster if you let me have this."
Yeah, the budget's really small. Like $30 million or something I was looking at.
Compared to the cast was awesome too, and this is funny to say, but I think like The Rock killed it in this.
I think he's funny.
One movie for the last 4 months. There was Snitch, there was G.I. Joe, there's this one, and then there's Fast and Furious.
I think he'd want to forget about G.I. Joe, but
He's not.
I think he redeemed himself for G.I. Joe with this movie. I'll say that.
He's always been funny. He was in a terrible, terrible movie called Be Cool.
The sequel to Get Shorty.
Yeah, it was one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
But he was
really funny in it. He played a gay bouncer in it, and he was he was really, really
What a
funny.
stretch for him.
Yeah. He had to wax his chest.
Wonder if I could get that job.
Waxing
Waxing,
waxing the Rock.
as like official waxer of the Rock. I'd put that
I thought
on.
you meant gay bouncer.
I could do that.
He could do that too.
I'm a jack of all trades. So today's topic, or this week's topic for our podcast, is Texas films. This is a topic that's really close to my heart as a Texas native and someone who grew up in Houston or in the Houston area. This is something that I really enjoy, seeing my home state and my home city, which I really love. Well, say what you will about Texas politics and some of the things that our state gets wrong. I think one of the things about Texas is that it is a really special place, and people really love it for a lot of really good reasons. Those of us here in the podcast, myself and Rob are Texas natives.
I thought the homework was Mexican films, so...
Did you watch Soul Food?
It's Texas. It's the same thing.
I have to change my list. My Vida Loca.
You'll talk about the Alamo. We'll be fine.
Was it maybe in Houston? I was in LA.
I like that everyone pays attention to me and behaves when I'm in charge. I need to carry the whip that Brenda carries when she hosts.
Isn't this your first time being
You
in
guys
charge?
were so
Yes,
well behaved
and it's
when Brenda
going
was in control.
well, she scares me a little bit.
Well, she was called that word that completely shut us down.
Oh, that was in fact my fault though, because I did like this.
Brenda, I told everyone that you threw the mic, you ripped the cords out, you said, "I'm done with this fucking show."
That's how he interpreted that
I did.
technical difficulty.
That's why we do a podcast, because you can't see the bruises.
Yeah.
I'm sitting over here looking like Rihanna right
the
now.
tears.
I just-
I
just
Too soon.
Too soon.
Is it?
Yeah. Well, I asked everyone before we recorded today to kind of think about movies that they think of when they think of Texas or Houston films that not necessarily filmed here but set here, or about Texas themes, and kind of pick a favorite. We started with a clip from Reality Bites, and I know that's kind of a cliched choice, but growing up in Houston in the 90s and seeing that film in 94 when I was just starting high school, the movie really had a lot of resonance with me. It's set in Houston. It is about people living in Houston, and it's about, if you haven't seen the film, it's about recent college graduates kind of coming back to Houston, living together, and kind of facing the reality of real world. And I didn't see it when it first came out. I saw it when I was in high school, and some of the themes that I saw in that film kind of resonated with me as I was in college, and kind of dealing with that, facing the real world. Seeing it now, which I watched it the other day, again, I really want them to all just stop whining and take a bath.
All I remember from that movie is how short Ben Stiller is compared to everybody else.
I adore that movie. When I was moving to Houston, I watched it once a week. I thought, this is Houston, and it is.
Yes, we walk around everywhere.
Yeah, in the movie, they're always walking.
There are some things that they definitely got wrong in the movie. It is not a pedestrian nirvana. Houston, Texas.
I'm gonna actually, whenever we get to one of your pet peeves, I'll go more into that. But to me, it's, I get where you're coming from, the continuity of it, but for location scouting, you're putting together a film.
Oh yeah, you don't want to be sitting in a car having a conversation on film like Houston really would be.
No, it's
House of Pies,
whatever scene,
which is a local restaurant.
whatever not set, but location works for your scene. That's what you're gonna go with. I just went through that. As a nerd, I was in Chicago. I was like, what buildings were shot that were part of the Batman movie? And I went...
When I was in San Francisco, I went to everywhere they shot Basic Instinct.
Well, there's a scene at the beginning of Reality Bites. The opening scene is on the top of a building downtown, and they're talking. It's right after their graduation.
Isn't that U of H they use for the graduation?
For the graduation.
Yeah, for the graduation scene was U of H. And then they're kind of up on the top of this roof of a downtown skyscraper, and Houston's in the background. It's really cool if you live here and you're seeing buildings that you see every day in a major movie. And Janine Garofalo and Winona Ryder, and everyone's talking, and they're kind of doing these little quips. And you forget that it's late May, and they're on a pebble roof in Houston. No Houstonian would ever in their right mind ever do that.
Why?
So,
by the
because
way,
it's 190 degrees up there. And you think they either filmed this in February, which you can't really tell because the trees don't lose their leaves here, but which maybe that's why they like to film movies here. But, that is one of the things that, we're going to talk about in a little bit, about things that filmmakers kind of get wrong about Houston and Texas in movies, and that is definitely one, is that they do underscore how hot it is here. And there are a lot of...
how do you really convey heat? I mean, if it's...
Winona Ryder could have passed out. Janine Garofalo dripping.
Honestly, then that would have defeated the purpose of that scene.
Yeah.
Then, if you're you're trying to capture the realism of our city, it won't work in those scenes. So it's whatever the script calls. In my opinion, that's whatever the script calls for. That's what you're trying to convey on film. Luckily they shot in our city, and when we go into Rushmore and so on, he brought up a good point with terms of endearment about the River Oaks having lunch, and then all of a sudden in Galveston.
Yeah, they're on the beach in Galveston.
Often people drive from River Oaks to Galveston right after lunch.
I do it all the time on my scooter.
What I was going to say for our listeners in Ohio, U of H is University of Houston.
We need to have like our cliff notes for Houston. So Brenda, what was your kind of favorite Houston
well, you
or
touched on
Texas
one of
film?
them, and then also I got to bring up, not only was it shot here, but it's also by a Houston native, Rushmore, Wes Anderson. Damn it! I was talking about that. Well, we can all talk about it.
You're talking
I'm
about the
not
Alamo.
talking about it.
Oh yes, yes.
It was especially exciting because I remember like all the buzz that was around when they were filming it. Like, oh, they're filming it at the school. Well, actually, the two schools that are right across from each other. For people that aren't native Houstonians don't know it, which was funny.
Lamar High School and St. John's.
Yeah, I don't even know the
Just
names
right
of
over here?
Just right, literally 2 blocks from where we're filming right now.
Yeah, and they're like face to face, but it makes it seem that like he goes into the ghetto for that second
Yeah,
school.
for Lamar School.
That is so funny. I'll have to watch that movie.
Well, and Wes Anderson went
I
to
have
St.
not
John's.
watched it.
He's a
Yeah.
St. John's alum, so he used his alma mater.
Wait, Wes Anderson's from Houston?
He's
I just
from
thought he was
Houston.
from Dallas or something.
Janine Garofalo's from here. She was
The
born in
rumor has it
Katy.
that Janine Garofalo worked at the River Oaks Theater.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
She was
She
she was a
was.
child in Katy, and then they moved away. But she lived in Katy for part of her childhood.
Jennifer Garner and Renee Zellweger lived in Katy too. Katy just likes to get rid of people.
It's if you've ever been to Katy, and nothing against any of our listeners who might be in Katy.
Katy listeners.
Hey,
That's your shout out enough.
everyone I've ever met from Katy no longer lives there.
No, but you were saying that that's the film that you feel.
I don't know if I'd call it my favorite. I think I'd have to go with Reality Bites.
Me too.
I spent 10 years in community college, so about
It's a theme. I mean, it's really a theme that really hits home with
Resonates
a lot of
people.
a lot of my friends. It is whiny 22-year-olds who.
God, we were all whining at 22. We're
You
still
know,
whining at.
I mean,
28.
I never.
Smooth.
Some of us are a little older. I'm on a 15-year plan to
I
get
know,
my
when you said
bachelor's
you got into
degree.
high school at 94. I said, what?
Which
You
makes
did the math quickly.
since I'm a junior in college right now. So-
21. Yeah.
And you're kind of, the Janine Garofalo character working at the Gap.
Worrying about getting
managing.
AIDS? I don't work at the Gap.
It's one of my favorite
In that one
scenes.
scene, she's like, I'm like the character on Melrose Place who has AIDS, and it's like, it's okay to have AIDS. I'm like, you're not gonna get it. She's like, I just said it. I'm just sad. And what's funny is the 2-3 people that were up for that part, besides Jean Garofalo, were Parker Posey and Gwyneth Paltrow. And I would have loved to see Gwyneth Paltrow play that scene, all
Holy
just like
crap.
skinny and blonde. Just like, you might be dying. I don't know. That's why I adore Janine Garofalo that part, because she takes low gravitas with it. It's not just funny. It's like
She brings something amazing to
But
everything.
it kind of dates the film if you think about it, because doesn't she bring up that fact that she may have AIDS closer to the beginning of the film, and it takes
Yeah.
I don't know, a month for her to get her results. And now
It's
you
a
can-
long time. She had to send off to Galveston or something. Shirley MacLaine was going to pick it up on her way back from lunch.
I haven't seen it in a while, but did you recently watch it?
I watched it about 3 weeks ago.
I've seen it all the time.
But does it hold up? Does it
Yes.
take the test of time?
No. It's nostalgic.
Oh.
Ben Stiller is not the best director, and I don't think he cast himself well in that part.
No, and I've never liked him.
Yeah,
as
everybody
Michael.
else kind of fits in there, and I know he's not supposed to fit in there, but if you had those two men to choose from, there's no way you wouldn't choose Ethan Hawke. So,
I was one of your questions that you had asked Jordan was, what film did we feel represented Houston? And I was going to go with Rushmore only because it was the film for me that hadn't yet established the Wes Anderson world. Now he has these movies that all can fit into that world. And I think Rushmore, Bottle Rocket aside, Rushmore is a film that highlights some great parts about our city, and it's not necessarily the most obvious parts about our city.
he didn't have enough money to be pretentious yet.
Let's go with that. but I love that you still feel his style in the film, and I felt that it showed a different romantic side of Houston that wasn't, that scene when they go to the stadium and they're flying the what is, not the kites, but the planes.
Was it like paper planes, I think, or
no? They're doing the electronic planes.
Oh, okay, like
The remote control,
operated,
yeah. And I love that shot. I love how peaceful it seems, even though I'm sure it was really windy at that stadium. I like, to me, that film represented Houston the way I like to see it. You have to go out of your way to find things that are beautiful about the city. The other one I kind of really liked was I Come in Peace, the Dolph Lundgren.
Oh God,
Awesome. Yeah.
That has one of the best lines in
Wes
the end.
Anderson too.
Oh no.
Jimmy Garofalo, Wes Anderson,
Stan, did
Shelley
you ever see that
Duvall.
movie?
Yes.
So the basic plot of the movie is this alien comes to Houston, and
Is this your life story?
it took me a second to get that, and I totally know what you meant.
Is it an alien from Mexico?
No, it's from outer space. Oh, but
Stan is
the
yelling at me
alien-
from across the room.
He says to make you feel better around him, he would say, "I come in peace," and then he kills you. And the last line in the film is, "Don't stop it! I'm not an illegal immigrant."
You seem very, very sensitive about that issue.
I have to carry my
The
papers
only
now.
person bringing that up is you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
just-
Who prompted that?
I just keep thinking of you in the movie, like walking around and people going, "Come in peace." Tamales.
We just like lost our 2 Mexican listeners.
I know what
No.
Mexican.
Our 2 Mexican listeners are the ones on the podcast. God damn it!
Listen,
I hope I'm not one of them because I'm totally not Mexican.
Brenda,
Nothing.
And the 2 people listening in Iowa were like, there were
there are
Mexicans
plenty of
listening
Mexicans
to
I've
this.
slept with that are listening to this show right now. Okay,
If we based our listenership based only on your
through the roof.
ex-boyfriends,
Through the roof.
those Arbitron
the
ratings would
like-
be all over the place.
Then the likes on Facebook would be a higher number.
I know. Well, then maybe that's what we can do with the Astrodome.
Well, they're trying to find me. They're trying to report. Oh, sorry.
You just totally threw me off. You're like, the last line of the film, I am not an immigrant. So I was like, I don't remember that line.
You know what? I'm just gonna post the clip later because I don't think we're gonna get to that.
Jordan, give me a Dr. Pepper.
I'll say one of-
Sorry.
That's all my fault.
You gave him sugar. He's like a gremlin.
He took sugar. Oh my goodness.
Oh, I will say one of the things I don't know that I have like a. I
Keep
I
it
do
together,
love,
Stan. Keep it together.
I do love reality. Yeah, Stan won't admit it, but I Come in Peace is the reason he moved to Houston. But anywho, I don't know if there's a specific movie. I do love Reality Bites, but I don't know if there's a specific film that I'm like, oh, that totally captures Houston. Granted, there's more films made in Houston that I need to watch, but
Like Urban Cowboy.
oh yeah, Urban Cowboy's a good one.
Is that in
But-
Houston?
Brewster McCloud.
It's in
I've never
Pasadena.
seen.
Yeah, me either. But
I actually met the guy who opened the bar that was, I guess,
Chili's in Pasadena.
Yeah.
Which is no longer there.
which burnt down. It's
Way to be topical, Stan.
it's the mustache.
Anywho, but I do remember anytime I'd watch a film set in Houston or filmed in Houston, I would geek out about like certain landmarks,
Seeing things.
like
and-
in Reality Bites when they're talking in front of those waterfalls. Like,
right, and that's right. I've walked through there. I've illegally parked there before.
My sister and I
for
both.
jury duty.
My sister and I had both planned to take pictures when it was time for our quinceañeras, but it rained on both of our quinceañeras. We ended up having to go to Town and Country Mall.
I'm not going to make another Mexican. Hispanic. Excuse me, Hispanic.
Curtis, have you driven by those water fountains on Saturdays?
No.
It's
Pandemonium.
It's all women or girls dressed up in quinceañera dresses trying to take photos there.
People go for prom. People go in front of them for their wedding.
I have seen that.
Welcome to Quinceañera the podcast.
I know. Let me tell you about my favorite Texas movie. Okay.
Are we moving on to Texas, or we're sticking with Houston?
Well, mine's Houston too.
Oh,
Well, we're moving on to Curtis.
More importantly, and I am legal. Terms of Endearment is one of my favorite movies, and my family. That's like part of our DNA. That movie, like literally, my brother made a joke once, and it's so true. We're all the women of the family, me. We're sitting there watching the movie, and my brother's like, "Oh, just wait just wait. And he was like, it's like a countdown. And then when she's like, I would be happy when it would be over. And we were all like, oh God, this movie. Everybody cries. And that was in Houston. I know where the house is, and I know where the house is from the sequel. And that feels like a Houston movie only because when I first moved to Houston, I didn't have a lot of friends. I would like watch that movie, or I'd drive by that house when I was having a bad day. And so every
You
time,
try to be friends with the people there?
hey, just walking by. Can I get in your house? I mean, they filmed in the house, in the backyard. I mean, it's filmed. It's right behind Chewy's.
It's on Lock Lane,
Yes.
right here in River Oaks, just a couple blocks
Just
from where
make a
we
left.
are.
Yeah, it's and I adore
Movies
that
the
movie
podcast
anyways.
headquarters is in River Oaks.
Yeah, practically.
Houston. But it's and there are a lot of landmarks. I really enjoyed Terms of Endearment as a child because they filmed the beach scene in my hometown of Texas City. A lot of people think that it's set in Galveston, but a lot of people think they filmed it in Galveston. That beach scene where Jack Nicholson drives on the beach.
It was clear water, so I wasn't sure.
That was probably CGI. They removed the medical waste and drums of oil, but there are tankers in the background, so you know it's Texas. But that was filmed on the Texas City Dike, and that was a really big deal.
Did you start watching that when you went to high school, that movie?
That was actually when I was in elementary school.
1983.
It came out in '83. I'm very old. And Shirley MacLaine and I actually went to high school together.
In a past life.
In a past life. But yeah, that's a great movie. That's a really good choice.
What other options do we have, just out of curiosity, that are Texas or
Well,
Houston films?
Jason's Lyric, I believe.
Jason's
that's right. It was
Lyric,
filmed at right by Allen Parkway.
Well, I sent a list to my
I read
podcast mates of just movies
No, you
that
didn't.
You were there when I read it.
of movies, and there were some on here that I didn't realize were made in Houston that I really like. There's a movie, FM, which is a really good movie that I really enjoy from
You
1978.
noted that you love that movie.
I really enjoy that movie, and it's only because Eileen Brennan's in it, I think, and I enjoy Eileen Brennan, and it's a weird movie all about people wanting to go to a Linda Ronstadt concert. So, but it's set in LA, but it's filmed in Greenway Plaza, and I never realized. I've seen that movie several times, and I never realized it was Greenway, and now I realize that it was the Summit. Which is now
the Summit.
I know, which is now the largest church in the United States, Lakewood Church. Used to be the home of the Houston Rockets,
Ohio
and it was
fan.
called the Summit.
And then it became the Compaq Center.
And then it was the Compaq Center, and then
God, you guys have lived here a long time.
now it's Six Flags Over Jesus. And but FM was a movie, and so were there any movies on here on this list that you thought you were surprised were set or filmed in Houston?
Well, there's a lot. I think a lot of people are. Well, not that a lot of people know about this film anymore, but does anybody remember that movie, The Chase, with Charlie Sheen and Christy
Yes.
Swanson?
I
didn't know automatically because it's supposed to be, I don't know, one of your pet peeves or one of you guys' pet peeves is when Houston subs for LA. But
It happens so often.
what's it called? They do a lot of scenes in the River Oaks area, or no, I'm sorry, Rice Village.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember seeing that. I was like, oh my God, I recognize that. Like, when I watched the film, I didn't realize they had filmed it in Houston.
I'm more concerned when California steps in for Texas because there are no mountains here. We are quite possibly the flattest city in America. And I always love it when they're in Houston or they're supposed to be on the beach in Galveston and there are mountains and palm trees in the background. I think there's a tire pile in Pasadena that might look like a mountain from a distance. I remember The Chase. They filmed it when I was in high school because I had two relatives that worked on the crew for that when they were filming with Charlie Sheen and Christy Swanson, and the gas station where she's kidnapped at the beginning. It's about an heiress that's kidnapped by Charlie Sheen. Is a gas station that I used to go to a lot. It's in Kemah, right on 146.
Why did you go to that gas station a lot?
Because we used to go to Kemah a lot to go to Bible study when I was in high school.
What did you study?
Natural light.
I
went to Boone's Farm Preparatory Academy.
When I was looking through your list of all the 80s films that were shot here, all I can think about is that we apparently gave a really good tax credit back in the 80s for film.
The city probably looked totally different when you guys were growing up, though, as compared to now.
It definitely, and it's interesting you bring that up because now a lot of movies don't get filmed in Houston. Houston is it's really hard to film in Houston, and this came up when Bravo was filming Top Chef Texas, which is not a movie, I know, but it's a really great reality cooking show.
Yeah, that is a pet peeve of mine. They totally skipped over.
They
Houston.
skipped Houston
They skipped over
because the city of Houston basically ransomed Houston and said, we want X dollars if you want to film here, and we want to have final approval of any filmed portions in Houston before it airs. San Antonio paid Bravo. Dallas paid Bravo. They even did a segment in Austin. They did one in Waco, out in the middle of a freaking pasture. Houston, for those of you who don't know, is a food mecca. We earned our fattest city in America reputation, honestly.
Every day.
We do it with, it's covered in powdered sugar. Powdered sugar smeared on my man boobs. Every day. It's 108 degrees and I'm eating a chili dog from James Coney. When a hot dog stand offers wedding catering, you know you live in the fattest city in America.
They do not.
They do. James Coney will do your wedding.
Speaking of being
that
fatty,
is not a gay wedding.
Houston films.
Yeah, give a bunch of gay men chili.
What are you implying? Speaking of food and movies, for anybody who lives in Houston, if you go to Frank's Pizza downtown, all the posters that they have in there are movies that were filmed in Houston.
Amazing films like Tin Cup,
RoboCop,
and RoboCop 2,
Blind Fury with Rutger Hauer.
Was that meant to be a Zatoichi remake?
I don't know. I just seen the poster where he's like waving around a cane and he's got the glasses because.
But have we
blind.
never had a good, God, even just Reality Bites, but a good Houston movie about Houston? You've had Dallas movies, you've had Austin.
There's
movies.
that documentary, Hot Town, Cool City.
Are you in that?
There's.
Why am I? No, I don't think I'm in that one.
Houston, I have always felt, and I felt this in television and in movies, I feel Houston always gets the shaft. Because I'll rephrase that.
The short end of the stick.
Houston always gets butt fucked. No, Houston always gets the shaft. I'll go with shaft. When it comes to, because it's such a vibrant city, it's such a diverse city.
It's hot and humid.
It's very hot here. But it's an incredible city, and I feel that we just don't get the appreciation we deserve in movies, in TV,
in general.
But we do in population growth.
But think of
people
how
love
much,
moving to our city.
Think of how much you could film from, say you had a movie studio in the center of Houston. You could stay inside the loop and film at a swamp, film at a park, film at a forest, film at a, it's just you could do so much.
It's an incredible area, and it just seems that when movie producers in Hollywood think about Texas, they think about Dallas. And
Austin,
that's
San
what
Antonio.
And not even so much Austin and San Antonio as much, but Dallas. And I know that it's
Austin's
also
pretty.
that a lot of it comes down to the Texas Film Commission, and it comes down to cities that are willing to work with film producers and give some tax breaks and kickbacks. I know a lot of film productions go to Louisiana because Louisiana gives a lot of kickbacks to studios that film in
that
their
movie
state.
that we played at Sundance, Ain't Them Body Saints, that was part of the Sundance Film Festival. When the filmmaker was in town, they asked him, your movie's set in Texas, but you filmed in Louisiana. He's like, they gave us a better tax credit. There's for a movie that small with such a small budget, you just have to take a break wherever you can.
No, yeah, I totally get it.
I agree. I'm also a native Houstonian because Jordan forgot to mention that. Well, I was born in New York. I was
so not a native.
That's why he asked you,
Houstonian.
where were you born?
Well, you're actually a native of Texas City, not necessarily Houston.
Ooh. There's some semantics going up in this.
You got shafted.
Brenda, I wanted your last podcast with us to go so much smoother than this. We're going to miss you.
Anyway,
now, actually,
my point
and
is,
what will happen if those of you who are listening to this can go back? I was cut off by Senorita Arcos over here, who wanted to once again assure, I guess, immigration that he is legal. That I was cut off in mid-thought, and I was about to mention the origins of all of our podcast members.
And I would remember.
No, we got the shaft. Curtis and I were not mentioned
Thank
at all.
God.
Curtis is going to walk over to Curtis's mic and talk in it for him.
Curtis is from Oklahoma. Curtis has been getting the shaft for
I'm
a
not
while.
from Oklahoma. I lived in Oklahoma half my life in California, half my life in Oklahoma, 4 years in Houston.
So it's the average of that, like Wyoming.
I
Colorado.
apparently cut off all of that, so I'm sorry that I was trying to peddle tamales.
Yeah, it's like,
my
it's
whole-
like a bris in here.
Back to my whole point. I've lived in Houston since I was 1, and I think maybe that I agree with you that Houston's very diverse, and that might be one of the reasons it's hard to find a definitive Houston film. I think you can, and also like we have no zoning laws for our out of town listeners, so we,
I still don't understand what that means when people tell me, "Oh, there's."
But isn't that
because
wonderful? Like,
you can drive 5 minutes from River Oaks and hit the ghetto.
Well, no, it basically
are-
means I can go to your house and next door there could be a Taco Bell, and then next door there could be
There
a
is
clothing
Taco
store.
Bell next door to us.
Rob moved there on purpose.
There could be a bar, and then there could be a boutique,
And there
could
also
be-
is a bar next to us.
Other cities master plan those kinds of
was
things
to make like a downtown.
to say that this is a residential area, so you can't put a tin smelter here.
You know
But
what,
in the
then,
great state of
for that,
Texas,
I love that. The no zoning, because I love being able to just walk around the corner to a bar or to Taco Bell or to.
But we talk about how we're not a walk-friendly city, but we kind of are.
we're becoming.
Well, maybe
we're
in our
becoming.
own areas, but
This
like,
is a traffic podcast. This is a Houston.
I was gonna say I want to step in,
And
but
how is it up there in the chopper tonight?
Jordan, get these bitches together.
I'm firing all of
I
them,
know.
honestly. Curtis and I are going to break off into our own.
And then we'll break off into separate groups eventually.
it's raining Houston, the podcast.
And by the way, for the next podcast, I'm going to need to see everyone's immigration documents for HR. Rob, you might want to go grab that from your car.
Yeah, right.
But I think one of the things that we've really hit on is that Houston is a city that's really misunderstood, I think, by the people who live here and also by the people who see us on movies and in television. I think the
People who live here, I've lived here 4 years, people that have lived here their whole life complain about Houston so much.
Yeah, that's a huge pet
It's
peeve of mine.
part of being a Houstonian is complaining about Houston. I complain about the heat. This will be my 33rd summer here, and I complained about the heat like it's a new damn thing every year.
Jordan, at the end of the day, would you trade anything about the city? I love this city.
Love Houston.
I'll trade the
I really
traffic
do.
out in a second for a hot whore.
Well, you do work outside the loop.
don't tell
so.
people where I work.
Oh,
But I completely lost my train of thought. I was
You
thinking
were
about
we love the city.
We love
Great
it.
place.
We do, and Houston's a great city. So
Let's make some movies here.
I do, however, have a favorite Texas film.
okay,
That would have to be Dazed and Confused.
Oh,
it's amazing Texas film, and I wanted to use that, but I wanted to use a Houston film. But Dazed and Confused is actually based on the director's experiences in Huntsville growing up, and it's filmed in Austin, and it's Austin's supposed to be a stand-in for Huntsville.
it is a stand for us. I think that movie's really good. I just don't like it. Like it's, like I just don't get it. I sit there and I'm like, this is boring. But I think it's a good movie. It's just not for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember going to high school in Texas and kind of living in a small town. That experience was definitely of just driving around town, seeing your friends at Sonic, driving around town, going to a party in a park, kind of bitching about your parents and summer vacation. You know, that was kind of. I don't know what that hand gesture means.
It means bag it up.
Oh,
Wrap it up.
I think Stan's saying that he's going into labor and he's fully effaced.
see,
Your anchor baby is on its way.
We'll have to see Stan's papeles at the end of this podcast.
I don't know what that means. Is that a dessert?
I think that's
Let's take it down to the end.
Nobody else has a favorite Texas film?
Ugh, these three.
welcome to Mental Breakdown, the podcast.
Exactly. Jordan, just take them down. You gotta like.
Okay, before anybody else mentions their favorite Texas films, one of my favorite things, or one of my pet peeves about Houston that we mentioned is sometimes people don't know about, the little hidden things that we have to do here. Something coming up the second weekend, or the first weekend in June, is Senorita Cinema. It's a local film festival directed towards Latina filmmakers. It runs June 7th through June 9th, and it's going to be mainly out of Rice Media Center. So I would suggest people look up Senorita Cinema Houston for more information.
And Rice Media Center is usually pretty cheap. The films there, and students get really good discounts there. And they show typically a lot of, and that's at Rice University here in Houston, Texas. And they, but they do show a lot of avant-garde films and a lot of obscure things, and they have a lot of really good film series there. Well, I'd like to thank everyone for joining today to talk about our favorite city. Obviously, this was a topic that meant a lot to a lot of us.
Don't let this podcast, though, reflect Texas. Please come visit.
But I think it should.
Texas is a mess.
It is a hot mess.
We're all over the place. There's racism. There's
Okay, then I stand corrected.
Yeah, there's immigrants.
Come on down.
There's food. Yeah.
There are no immigrants in this podcast.
I said in Texas. Don't be getting sensitive. Everybody's getting sensitive about their immigration status.
Well, for Rob, because we all know that.
Sure. Follow us on Facebook to find out Brenda's true immigration status. We're going to post a picture of the birth certificate.
Can we please do that? Please.
A birther movement?
A birther movement on the podcast.
Yeah.
So this has been Movies the Podcast, and this has been Jordan.
This is Curtis.
This is Rob.
This is Brenda.
This is Stan.
Bye, Stan.
Bye.